Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy. This is one of the people who thought, let me not say think, who thought they were going to replace Donald Trump. Vivek Ramaswamy thought he was going to be the fast-talking, intelligent Donald J. Trump. And the guy forgot that he was not white. He forgot that he was Indian. He was thinking, I don't know from where. I don't know if it was a dream that he had. But somewhere in his mind, in his brain, in his intelligent brain, something told him that the MAGA base was going to ditch Trump and get him. He was shocked when one of the far-right conspiracy propagandists told him in his face that, Vivek, I like you, but I will never vote for you for president. He invited that lady, what's her name, Ann something, on his podcast. And she did not even shy away from making him know that, dude, you are not white. Stop trying to be one of us. We might like all what you say about the other race, but you are not one of us. This guy, even having that lady on his podcast tell him that, he still went ahead spewing all the nonsense that he thought was going to give him it was going to make him the nominee for the Republican presidential election for 2025 and beyond. Something definitely. And then, guess what? Donald Trump did not even pick him for his cabinet. Did not even consider picking him for his cabinet. Guess where they put Vivek? DOGE. And now he's trying to tell us why I left DOGE project. Are you going to believe anything that Vivek is going to say now? Now. Do you believe anything that Vivek is going to say as true? Can this play? Okay, let's go.
We got a good head start, by the way, in the 2 months leading up to inauguration.
Yeah.
They got a good head start.
I'll give you the high level. There's a short story and long story. I can give you the short story
Great.
for sure. And the short stories, both are accurate.
You know when somebody's going to lie, when they tell you that they'll give that there's a short story and there's a long story. That's when you know they're lying. Because there's only one truth. The story should not be short and it should not be long. There should be one reason why you left DOGE. And that one reason is that you are not white. That one reason is that you do not belong in that thing. You do not belong in that MAGA ideology. You do not belong because you are not one of them. Elon Musk, an African, but white, kicked you out of DOGE, and you expected these people to welcome you. So let us get the short story. He says he's not going to say the long story. He's just going to give the short story. Okay, bring us the short story then.
The short story I can give you. The short story is, it evolved from a focus on where I was focused, legal, constitutional issues, legislative issues of, if you want to save a lot of money, you got to do it through legislation. If you want to look at the Supreme Court landscape for the last few years.
That's my ginger tea. You have to do it through legislative means, but you are unelected. So how is somebody who is not elected going to be trying to sort out spending through legislative means? These guys, they have Congress. Congress is meant to do that for them. But you are not elected and you want to do the work of Congress. But let's get what he's trying to say.
Regulations are unconstitutional. That's where I had been.
By the way, before anybody starts to throw shades on me, I'm not an American, but this thing is on YouTube. And whatever is on YouTube, we watch and we react. we also know a few of the things that happens in America, so we can react. And my opinion is shit, but the reaction to Vivek lying again is going to be awesome. So let's continue.
And, the way it's gotten started, you could see this publicly as well, is much more of a technology and digital technology focus.
Okay, so just slow down for a second.
Yeah.
So you were going to use the Constitution to remove legislation.
Well, to remove regulations.
Sorry, regulations.
Yeah.
So you're going to use legislation to remove regulations.
And I've written about this for the last year, right? So
can you give an example in that?
Yeah, I can give a good example.
Oh, he's going to use legislation to remove, what did he say? But he's not a member of that branch. He's not a member of the legislative branch. DOGE hasn't even got an office. DOGE is not one of the government branch. DOGE is just something that Donald Trump and Elon Musk decided to put together. And by the way, Elon Musk has got the Doge coin. So DOGE is a DOGE, what is it? Something of government efficiency. Department of Government Efficiency. That is not even a department. It hasn't got an office. So why is he saying that he's going to use legislative measures to reduce spending? But he's unelected. How was he going to do that? How?
So, not to get too academic too quickly, but basically, Congress is supposed to pass the laws, and the executive branch is supposed to enforce the laws. But it turns out that most of the laws that decide what you can and can't do in your life were actually never passed by Congress. They were passed by people who were never elected to their position.
The managerial class.
The managerial class, the bureaucrats in D.C.
What's a law? Give me an example.
Yeah, so they don't call laws, they call them rules, but they have the effect of laws.
Right.
Let's say the amount of fees that fishermen have to pay to the government to have a license to be able to fish in a particular area. Let's say it is the registration requirement before a bank or an asset manager is allowed to do business. Let's say it is the procedural hoop that a biotech company has to jump through before advancing from phase 1 to phase 2 of the development process. Let's say it's the permission that a coal miner or a nuclear energy plant has to get as permission.
From what I can understand, all what he's saying is they were just trying to reduce the steps you take to acquire any of those permits that he's been naming. It's just like trying to make it faster, trying to make it more effective and efficient to carry out for those rules to work or those laws to work. That's what I understand. I don't know if there's something else he's trying to explain, but we are going to find out.
From the government before they build a new nuclear energy plant, which, by the way, has not happened in 20 years in this country because the red tape associated with doing so is so impossible.
Now, I imagine
none of those were passed by Congress.
Yes.
None of those were passed by people that we, the people, elected.
Right.
They were written into law. They call them rules, but effectively into law by unelected bureaucrats.
Right.
And the thing is, that's not a democracy, right? It might be something else, but it's not a democracy because in a democracy, if somebody makes a law that affects you, you get to vote them out. That's what it makes a law. These are more like edicts.
Yeah.
Right? Edicts come from a king because you can't vote him out. This doesn't come from a king, but it's a new kind of edict of a bureaucracy.
So just so I can understand,
that was the problem.
You're not against regulation as long as it's decided by democratically elected officials.
That's my most foundational principle. It so happens in my own...
How can you be trying to do such a thing and you are not democratically elected? You've been hand-selected, hand-picked, and a department has been formed for you to try to make sure that Department of Government Efficiency, for you to make sure that things should be. I don't know.
Pretty libertarian.
I don't know.
Tend to be against. I think most of these regulations tend not to be productive.
But sometimes you need regulation.
But the most important principle is if you're going to have it, at least let the people who it affects to say, if it's not working out for me, I want to be able to vote you out. Now, I need to be able to vote you out. That's the most important principle.
Just so we can understand, like a lot of this probably comes from good intentions.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So these aren't like evil people necessarily.
There's evil. There's certainly malicious people in all kinds of domains of life.
Yes.
And the government is no exception to that.
Right.
And you can see some egregious examples of it. But by and large, I think what we're talking about the regulatory state. the overwhelming majority of federal bureaucrats who I've met are good people because most people are good people.
Yeah.
And they believe what they're doing is not for the detriment of the American people.
For the betterment of the American
But it's for the betterment of the American people. It's a kind of elite benevolence.
Yes.
And it's sort of skeptical of democracy because the idea that you could just leave it to ordinary people to decide this complicated stuff.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can't leave it to ordinary people because they're going to harm themselves.
They're too dumb.
We
They
have
don't
to
know
make
how
that. Exactly.
Come on, you can't say they're too dumb.
It's kind of the whole premise of the modern federal bureaucracy.
But I get that. I think it's nice to not paint all these people who are creating this, what do you call it? Creating
Bureaucracy,
regulation
red
or-
tape,
yeah.
regulation, exactly.
As nefarious. Because
I
that's
think
not the
most,
case.
by and large, most human beings are not nefarious.
And a lot of times it's reactionary. Like I think there
most
was
human beings are good people.
Yeah, there
with
was
good intentions.
There was like a fire in New York, I'm pretty sure, and I think one of the rooms was created in like an apartment building, and I think a fireman died because they built the room but didn't ask the city for permission. So the plot or the plan that they had. So then I think what the knee-jerk reaction was to say you cannot do anything to your apartment without permission for the whole city. I'm probably butchering this.
But you cannot do, in a modern society, you cannot do any renovation without a permission from the council. A lot of people do that, but they are illegal. Yeah, in the UK, if you want to if you want to renovate your house, expand, build an additional room, you need to seek permission from the council. So that is not something which is that is just how, because like he's just mentioned, in case there is fire, they have to know the plan of that house. If the firefighters are coming, they already know the layout of the house, they know where all the windows are, so they can be safe when they get in. But people do those things, but they are illegal. Those things are illegal.
The kind of example you see all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I get that knee-jerk reaction because you
Yeah.
want to protect firemen. These guys are brave.
And
They're
it's the
running
same
into a
thing
fire.
you
They want
see,
to
and it's actually a great example because you see that same type of incentive structure show up all the time where someone at the FDA,
Yeah.
they rarely will get hauled in front of some hearing if they fail to approve a drug that saves lives. But if they do approve a drug that has some unintended side effects, then they're going to be in the public eye. So their incentive is to go in one direction, not the other. Does that make them an evil person? No.
Yeah.
Most human beings just respond to the incentives that they have while still in their heart of hearts believing that they're doing good. That's the way the federal
So this is
bureaucracy
your
works,
idea for
but it's too
DOGE,
big. Yeah.
right?
Well, and we laid it out. So there was a Wall Street Journal op-ed that we co-authored soon after it was written, focused on this constitutional approach where the Supreme Court in the last couple of years came out and said, actually, most of those rules are actually unconstitutional because they didn't go through Congress. That's a big freaking deal. Happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So we got that toolkit. And then if you want to really tackle government spending, which is a separate prong, the budget's set in Congress. There's no way around that, right? The budget is set by Congress. If you want to cut trillions of dollars, you got to go to the core of that budgeting process. So that was where my focus and our focus was. I think if you look at, now what's taken off, and I think it could be great, it's very much a digital technology first approach.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I'll let you read the executive orders that came out last week. And like I said,
we're not doing that.
Nobody's going to do that. Just tell them.
I'll leave it at what I'm able to say, which is, sort of what you can see publicly. Very technology focused approach, and that there's nobody better to take
So the only reason Vivek is trying to tell us that he left DOGE, and by the way, he's letting us know that he wasn't fired. So the only reason that he left was because Elon Musk was making it more, was pushing the technological part of it. He was making it too digital. It was almost like, no, this is not what we support. He wants to redeem legislation. Why Elon Musk is doing technology? Is that why he left? So that's the only reason. You know yourself if you're going to get involved with Elon Musk. No, Elon Musk is all about tech. That's how he makes his money. So if you know you're going to do anything with Elon Musk, be ready to go tech crazy. Because that's what he knows. So that's still not the reason.
Than Elon. And
Right.
by the way, we ended up having a pretty open discussion amongst all of us that if my focus is on the legal, constitutional, policy-making functions, that's where my passion has been. The right way for me to realize my own vision is
to run for governor.
And
But
By the way,
not the governor of Ohio or anything.
all of those except that one position.
Yeah,
Now, announcement will be coming of some kind in the next couple of weeks.
Got it.
But I will say that even some of the regulations you brought up, right? The fireman example.
Yeah.
Most of those regs aren't just federal regulations. In fact, most of them that affect people in everyday lives are also at the level of the state.
Right.
And, I think...
Has Vivek Ramaswamy ever spoken with Andrew Tate? I think them two, they are going to have the conversation between them two. Oh my God. Because all of them, they like to talk. They can talk for days. So imagine a podcast between them two. It is going to be... It's going to be filled with a lot of talking. So they are going to actually have to fight to get the other person to talk. Because once Andrew Tate starts to talk, he doesn't stop. Once Vivek starts to talk, he doesn't stop. So that podcast...
When you think about driving executive action to improve people's lives,
Yeah.
I think a governor's seat is probably the single best way to actually do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
And so that's where I land.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wouldn't you and Elon coming in as DOGE, isn't that the same as unelected bureaucrats coming in to make a bunch of...
Good question. I will see how he's going to play gymnastic with this question. Because he's not going to give a straight answer. He's going to play gymnastic, and that gymnastic is going to be one crazy gymnastic.
rules?
So I think it's a super fair question. I've fielded that over the couple of months. The question is, it's one thing if you are undoing the actions of people who have actually affirmatively made rules versus making new rules of your own.
So you're not going to make any rules. You're just taking away rules. I think.
Well, I think if you're rolling back rules and actually cutting bureaucratic overgrowth, it's one thing to come in and say you're going to hire 1 million federal bureaucrats without any authorization from Congress to do it. It's another to say there are 4 million, many of whom were hired without that authorization. We need to scale that headcount back. It's another thing to say all these regulations showed up with Congress never authorizing them. It's another to say they're illicit unless they go through Congress, right? So that was the premise. It's a one-way ratchet. If there's been a federal government overgrowth and a lot of that was never authorized by the democratic process, then it's one thing to say, okay, then all of that, in order to comply with the Constitution, has to be rolled back. You can't make it without authorization.
But how would you apply
But you
all
could
of
reverse
these
that.
new tech? You said Elon's trying to do like tech-driven rules.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let.
Wouldn't that be new rules?
Well, so I shared with you my outlook was in what brought me to the project, and I'm super rooting for success and hopeful for success for what's going to come from a technology-driven approach.
But that's
You see that he hasn't given a clear answer. He hasn't. That's why I said he was going to make all sorts of gymnastic. And as soon as he discovered that he was pushed against the wall, he's trying to move quickly away from that question. This guy might be a good politician if he can just stop lying. But politicians do lie. That's why most lawyers end up being politicians. Because you have to know how to lie with a straight face. And lawyers are good at that. And that is why almost all of them, most of the politicians, they have a background in law. So, Vivek.
We had a different philosophy and approach and emphasis.
Yeah. Talk that shit. Talk that shit.
Well,
me and my wife had different philosophies about
the
dinner
truth of the
last
matter is, I think there's
philosophy.
nobody better in the world to run a technology-focused approach to fixing the federal government than Elon. And if that's where the focus is, I'm rooting for their success. And similarly, when I'm thinking about my legal, constitutional, legislative focus in downsizing government, it's hard to argue the best way to do that isn't through actually being elected in my own right.
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble understanding what the technology-driven approach would be. Can you?
What does that mean?
I mean, all I'll say is at that
Does he even know, or he's just spewing words that he doesn't know? I'm not saying he's not intelligent, but he has to explain what the technological-driven side he's trying to tell us. By the way, remember again, I am not an American. USA, I'm not. This is on YouTube, and we watch YouTube all over the world. And if you like it, do a reaction video. And if you want to give your opinion, it's fine. If you just want to talk through it, that's fine. So tell us, Vivek.
I'm not running example,
I'm not running
hypothetically,
that.
or whatever.
No, I would say
Because I truly don't know what that means.
I hear you.
He doesn't even know. Vivek doesn't know
what I'm able to talk about. But stay tuned. And I'm rooting for success.
Did he just say he doesn't know? That's why I said Vivek is intelligent. He's a successful businessman. But a lot of times, Vivek will just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but he will not answer the question. Has he just concluded that he doesn't even know what he's talking about? You said you left because Elon Musk was taking this to the technological side. And this guy has just asked you, what do you mean by that? And did he just say he doesn't know but wish them success?
I gave you what my outlook is because I could speak for my outlook.
Yeah.
So before you guys started,
I think there's an opportunity. Is there an opportunity to make things more efficient using digital technology? I believe there is.
Yeah.
But that's a different.
But before you guys
direction.
started it, did you have this conversation about what your outlooks were for this program?
We co-wrote a Wall Street Journal op-ed that's out there that laid out a vision that's pretty consistent.
And then
with
did something
what I've laid out.
change?
Well, I think it's a, first of all.
Did you see him
it's
saluting in the office?
It's and people. I can't believe people lost their minds over that.
It looks nothing like.
Oh my God. The thing is, when you behave like this man is behaving, when people call you names, when people insult you because of your background, and because you're trying to align with them, and then you dismiss it, no, it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. That guy did that salute, not one, not twice. And if people are saying that salute was not what we all saw, the following week, that guy was in Germany giving a speech to people who commonly do that salute. But people still try to say that is not what we saw. It's like you telling me that this is a microphone, and I'm telling you, no, it's not a microphone. You are talking to the no, I'm not talking to the microphone. What you are saying is not what I have. Meanwhile, you can actually see me talking to the microphone. Why are these people doing this?
People are so crazy, aren't they? People are so dumb for seeing that and thinking it was something else. What fucking retards we got, right?
Your words, man. Your words.
You know, when they make a mockery of you and laugh, and you too laugh, that is funny. And the show is doing that intentionally, mocking Vivek, and Vivek also is laughing. Just like that woman and something, I don't know, and her name is Anne, second name starts with C. She told this guy face to face that I would not have voted for you for president of the United States because you are Indian. And the guy just laughed. He didn't even push back. He just laughed. Your kids, even your kids will not respect you. That is what you're telling your kids to behave when they go to school and somebody insult them, call them racist. They should just laugh and pretend as if it's a joke. No, that is wrong.
I think that
is
there was
wrong.
a evolution in any new project, right?
Yeah.
This is something like this has never been done. I'll give you one example. Right?
Yeah.
Initially, this was supposed to reside outside of government.
Yeah.
Now it, late in the lead up to starting, ended up in the government. And by the way, here's another thing
That's
that
to
happens.
Alex's point.
When it's in the government,
This is Animal Farm, bro.
when it's in the government, also I can't run for office at the same time. There's a rule, it's called the Hatch Act, that stops you from independently engaging in your own political activity or running for office while you're in the government. If you're outside the government, it's a different constraint. So there were a lot of things that obviously was supposed to be on the outside for a lot of reasons, ended up moving inside, ended up having a technology first approach. And so when something like this is
Technology first approach, yeah.
obviously there's going to be some evolution,
Right.
and it made a lot of sense given the way things, evolved, for me to say, you know what, this is the right way for me to achieve my vision and goals for the country, and to wish success in taking a technology-driven approach within the federal government. And that's where we landed.
I think that seems like you guys had a, what is it called? Amicable breakup? Is that?
We're super friendly on a personal level.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes a different
It was a
outlook
mutual
in the-
decision. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
very much so.
Okay, so you and him aren't beefing, but you just had
Not on
different
a personal
ideas
level.
for the
Yeah,
program.
you got a bunch of people with
I imagine these
different
opinionated
visions
too. Yeah.
of how to achieve similar goals.
Yeah.
You find different ways to achieve those goals.
Did you have a
And so-
combo where you're like, yo, I think we should actually go this direction?
Well, look, I think that it was an evolution of
Yeah.
where we were headed, for sure.
It was an evolution.
In a new project. It's never been done before. So initially the thought would be outside government,
Yeah.
use the legal constitutional basis legislation, ended up, really having an internal to government and technology-centric focus. I think that's great. And I think it could be super successful. And I think there's nobody with that focus. I really mean this. I think there's nobody with that focus that is going to be better positioned to do good things than Elon.
Of course, but
But
initially,
the flip side is also at a certain point. I think this is where it's gonna be
The South African. I don't know. Maybe he's going to work. He's the richest person on this planet. So, but the way he does it, also, he doesn't give a shit about the poor. Elon is going to do things that will benefit the rich. Rich people look after rich people. Rich people do not look after poor people. They are going to slash benefits that will affect only poor people. Because the rich people, they will take care of each other. The poor people will scrap to survive. And the rich man doesn't care about your survivor. He doesn't. He cares about his money, his investments, his stocks, his gold bars. In the rich people don't give an F about poor people. So I don't know, to be honest.
Really looking at a unique constitutional vision for the future of the country, grounded in my view of what our lawmaking process ought to be. How do you restore self-governance in America? How do you actually rid ourselves of that managerial bureaucracy that exists at the federal, but also at the state level? I think I need to stand on my own feet and be elected to office to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's
good.
That's a good thing.
That's good. Yeah, it'll be good for him to stand and be elected in office. He can start from there and he can still run for president. Remember, Biden did run for president. Was it twice? And the third time, he was elected. President Trump did it the first time, won. Second time, he lost, and then he came back and won. So, Vivek, go for it. You're already a politician, and you can lie with a straight face. Go for it, and let's see. You're still young anyway, and you're rich. But as the lady said, they are not going to vote for you because you are Indian. But let's see if you change minds. People, what do you think about Vivek? Did he give a straight answer, or was he just meandering and just speaking just like he does, but never really answers the question? Another one, I'm doing 100 videos to try and see if my channel can get 100,000 subscribers. So this is video number 97. No, video number 3 of 100. So I've got 97 more to go. Come on, people, let's go. Let's get that 100 out.